We hear about hacks and breaches every day, and when someone we know gets hacked, we try to learn from their story, right? Well, we have quite the first-hand account to pass on to you, as our Matt Miller with ZDNet was hacked in pretty elaborate fashion. Matt, we're going to start here with, I think, the easiest way from the beginning. Just tell us first how you knew you had a problem.
Okay, so it was last Monday, June 10th, and I had a business trip the next day. And so I was in bed sleeping, and my daughter, since I'm a pretty popular Twitter user, and my daughters follow me and they're in tech and stuff like that. So she came and shook me awake at 11:30 at night and said, "Dad, I think your Twitter's been hacked. There's a weird message. It said something like, I'm kind of a big deal." I never saw that post, but that's what she said. So I'm like, well, that's weird. So I immediately rolled over, picked up my phone, and I saw that there was a message from T-Mobile on my phone, and my SIM and signal was not active. And there was a text message from T-Mobile that says, "Your phone number, blah, 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 has been removed." I'm like, well, I don't understand that. What do you mean been removed? So I tried calling 611, which is the T-Mobile customer service line. Nothing. It said, "Cannot make the call." I'm like, well, that's weird. So my SIM wasn't working at all. So now I'm kind of like, well, that's weird. So I went downstairs to the computer, went to my Twitter account, which at the time is Palm Solo, and I couldn't get into it. I tried different passwords, couldn't get into it, nothing like that. So then I went into just the public, twitter.com/Palm Solo, and it said, it had deleted like 3 years of tweets were missing, and my profile picture was missing, and this other stuff. And then eventually that Twitter account ended up unfollowing everybody that I followed. It switched to private. It blocked everybody. I had another Twitter account. I followed that one to keep track. It eventually blocked me. It's been taken down from about 10,000 followers now to about 3,000 last I saw, with no fault, and the person is not following anybody. So that account's pretty honked up. So far I'm only focused on Twitter, right? Because that's what my daughter caught. So then after I was like, whatever, I'll resolve that later. I said, what's wrong with my cell phone? So I called up, thankfully I had a Project Fi phone as well. So I called up T-Mobile. I said, I don't understand what's going on here. My SIM card is still in my iPhone. I've done nothing. Why is my SIM card no longer associated with my iPhone? And they said, well, somebody called and said they had lost the phone and it's been switched away to somewhere else. I'm like, well, I have a 6-digit PIN on my phone. I don't understand. Yeah. So I said, listen, I need that SIM back active on the SIM card that's in my phone right now. So they said, okay, well, what we can do is we can send a text message to one of your 4 other phones in your family plan. I'm like, fine, do that. So they sent a text message. I verified it, got my account back. I'm like, well, why didn't you do that the first time somebody asked to take my phone away? Why didn't you do that kind of verification, since you can see I have 5 phones on my T-Mobile account? I've been a customer for like 16 years. I don't understand how somebody can call up and switch it. Well, they said, well, it's back now and all that. So I'm like, okay, that's good. So then I went to Twitter, and the only way to reset my password on Twitter was to log into Gmail. I said, okay, fine. Went to log into Gmail, and I can't get into Gmail. I'm like, what's going on here? So it turns out that my Google account had been hacked. So I don't know what happened first, right? There's 3 things going on, but both my Twitter and my Google were 2-factor authenticated with text messaging. So I think my SIM was somehow taken first, and then they reset my passwords on my other account. So what I did is I did have a backup email account where Google will send things. So I went and found that account, and it had happened at about an hour before my daughter noticed it. Somebody had gone into my Google and reset my password and recovered my account and all this other stuff. So now I have no way to get into Google. And the scary thing is, I've been on Google for 14 years.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of trusted that I had good security on my accounts and things like that. It turns out, and call me naive or whatever, but I had tax returns. I had everything that I have physically, I had backed up on Google Drive, because I pay for Google Drive and all this stuff. Well, now all of that is accessible to this person that took it. So they have my life essentially on Google now. And so then I'm like, okay, now I got to set this. I have to get my Google account back, because Twitter won't let me do anything at all unless I verify via my Palm Solo account. I'm like, well, I don't have access to that. Can we do something else? And no, there's nothing. So pretty much I've given up on Twitter. There's nothing I can do with my Twitter account until I get my Gmail back. So on Gmail, you can go through recovery options. And in my article, I listed, I think there's about 8 options. And unfortunately, I only had a couple of those enabled. I had my cell phone, which now was hacked and I didn't have, which now has been changed to a different number, of course, by the hacker. I did have a couple of emails. One of those, thankfully, was still not changed. So I sent it to my work email. I have a day job as an engineer. I sent it to that email in hopes that that would help me recover. I guess for Google, that wasn't enough information. So that's been a week and they've not progressed that. Since then, the hacker has now changed that email. So I have nothing left in the recovery questions to answer. Thankfully, my wife had a brilliant idea. She said, well, when did you get your Google account? What did you have before that? I said, well, I had a Yahoo account. So I logged into my old Yahoo account, saw when I last sent a text message or an email from that account, and was able to figure out about the month and year when I started Google. So I gave that to Google, still nothing. So right now, I don't know if I'm ever going to get it back.
Yeah, it's really so scary, Matt, that all of this can happen and so quickly, and upsetting too that Google couldn't do more to help you.
No, that was frustrating. The very first time you fill out the recovery form, it says, we'll take a look at things. We'll get back to you within 3 to 5 business days. I'm like, really? Oh my God, this is terrible.
Wow.
So this all is happening. I mean, this was midnight now on Monday, and I'm trying to do this stuff. And then so once I found out that the Google was hacked and I couldn't get back into it, I went and tried to list. I immediately went to every financial institution that I have to change my passwords and email accounts associated with that, and tried to find and think of all of the really important accounts, because a lot of them and most of them were associated with my Gmail account. So I was able to go in and change a lot of that kind of stuff. So I thought I had a pretty good lock on things going too far. But then I had to go on a business trip, right? So, and this business trip was a Garmin fitness retreat in the mountains of Montana. So I headed out. I told my wife, and we were trying to lock things down. So I went to this trip. Went Tuesday night. So then Wednesday morning, about 4:30 in the morning, I get this email that says your bank account is now over the limit. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is when my heart just dropped. $25,000 ACH payment was made for Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh my God. I told the Garmin folks, I said, listen, can you take me back downtown where I can get a cell signal? I have to get some things under control or I'm going to lose it. I don't have 25,000 in my checking account, so I'm like, how could you take that out? So I get down to Whitefish, Montana, and my cell phone's, up in the mountains, it's not working. Fine. I get down to Whitefish, Montana, my cell phone's not working. I'm like, what's going on? So I turned the airplane mode on and off. I'm like, this is a pretty good sized town. I should have signal. I had it before. Come to find out, I called my wife. Well, I tried to use my Project Fi phone. Well, guess what happens? A pop-up appears. Your Project Fi or Google Fi account has been deactivated. So, because that's part of Google, so the hacker had killed that account. So now I have no way of calling anybody. So I found a free Wi-Fi at Safeway, got on Facebook Messenger, because thankfully, out of all of this that's gone on, my Facebook account hasn't been hacked yet. Well, now it's going to be after I say this, but...
Okay, so Matt, you had to talk with your wife through Facebook Messenger to T-Mobile. She had to explain that your SIM information had once again been transferred to another phone, and because T-Mobile actually couldn't help you, you then had to call in a favor, I understand, to a friend of yours at T-Mobile, and he finally was able to get your SIM card locked down so the hacker couldn't keep stealing it over and over. Also, the bank, I know you mentioned that you were able to get them started on working on that fraudulent $25,000 charge. So all of that is good. But the scary thing here, Matt, is that you are technically very savvy. You do work in tech, but most people don't. So, what do we take from this? How do we help people not become the next victim?
But I think two-factor authentication is fine. but
Hmm.
I'm leery of it. You can go more than just text messaging.
Right.
Many sites offer other methods other than text message authentication. I would recommend considering those other options as well and exploring those. Um, if you, you know, if you do have, like, take the cell phone, because I don't have all the answers for that, but other accounts definitely. I read there's some great comments coming in on the ZDNet post, but
Hmm.
it's great ideas that I've had stories from other people is use a completely separate email that is never given out in public or anything else for your banking accounts. Maybe even have another phone number, a home phone, or another SIM number or something that is associated with financial things that really, really matter, that are important to you. And, me personally, if I ever get my Google back, I'm probably not going to store very super important tax records, things like that, on the cloud. To be honest, right now, I'm a little freaked out. I have hard drive backups of things. I'll use my cloud service for photos or things I don't really care that much about, but I'm going to kind of watch it a little bit more. But other than that, there's only so much you can do. I thought I had it locked down with two factor, and I, and my passwords aren't like a word. I use random letters and numbers. I think I have strong passwords, but I have been considering, like on the iPhone, when you go to a website, it'll actually say, would you like to use this strong password? And it has, 20 letter crazy passwords. I'm going to definitely explore either something like 1Password or other software, or some place that creates crazier passwords than even I can come up with myself. Because I'm obviously, one thing too is I did use a lot of these, even though they were very strong passwords. I used them a lot,
Hmm.
repeatedly, because it was amazing. Okay, well, one other thing I didn't think about that could help people is I was like, what websites have I used Palm Solo, Gmail, and passwords? So Chrome, of course, many of us log into Chrome and we sync our Chrome bookmarks, passwords, whatever. So thankfully, I had other phones around here, and I kept them in airplane mode. I went into the Chrome. I was able to see all of the websites and passwords. So that's what I've been using as my checklist to go change. But the scary part is the hacker has all that information too. So I'm no longer saving any passwords on any browser.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Well, some really good advice there. We know this has been a real nightmare for you. You still managed to have a good attitude. So thank you for all of that. As we know from many of the comments that you guys are all leaving for us, there are some other things that people need to keep in mind. We appreciate you sharing that with us. Please continue to comment down below with some advice and suggestions. It's all right here on ZDNet. Thanks so much for watching.